There we go. Todd's the Associate Dean of Admissions and Community Outreach, and he's going to do a presentation about sort of the impact of the last year or so on the college admissions process, things that you need to know, maybe that are a little different from the college perspective versus what we're going to talk to you about, which will be really the simple, well, not so simple, but the actual process of applying. So we're going to have like sort of part 1 and part 2. And I'll do introductions in a second with our great guidance staff. So we're gonna get going here. We are doing both closed caption and ASL interpreters. If you need to see the interpreter, what you're going to want to do is go up into I believe the right corner. You'll see a view, and you'll be able to pick the gallery screen. And then when we're sharing our presentations, you'll be able to locate Lauren and Gabe. Gabe will be on soon. They'll be doing the interpreting for you. Okay, so, all right, that being said, I am going to try to share my screen here. Let's see how this works. No, that is not what I wanted to do. There we go. All right, so as I said, this is part 2 of our 11th grade college career in planning night, and this is going to be on the college application process itself. Try that again. Do you want to ask questions yet? All right, so let's meet the guidance staff and student support staff. So I'm Vinny Searcy. I'm the Director of Pupil Personnel Services, and in that role, I'm also the Director of Guidance. Jen Prue is our school counselor, guidance counselor for the last names A through F, as well as students that attend the GRIT program, and currently the DLA program as well. That's our Distant Learning Academy, anybody that's parent choice remote. And we have Allison Warren. She's the school adjustment counselor, school guidance counselor for last names G to M. And then Kate Nesbitt is our school guidance counselor for last names S to Z, STEP, and DHH programs. And right now, Kate is joining us, but she's actually out doing remote this right now. So we have Molly Kilday, who's our long-term substitute for Miss Nesbitt while she is out. But she was nice enough to join us. And then another person that you should know who's very important to our whole process here is Melissa Thompson. She's not with us tonight, but she's our guidance administrative assistant. And she does numerous things to help both us out as well as the students. She can reset passwords and those kinds of things. So she's an important person for everybody to know. What we're going to go over tonight, and we're each going to take a small section. I'm almost done with mine. I get to just sort of introduce everybody and then let the counselors talk to you a little bit more. But what the typical college application components. So what are those? Well, there's going to be the application itself. In most cases, you're going to use the Common App. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about what that is and how you can use it and why you're going to want to use it. Although there are still some institutions that have sort of their own institution-specific application that you have to use either, most cases online, although I think there are still a few that are doing the old-fashioned paper ones. Then there's letters of recommendation. That's the responsibility of the student, as is the application itself. You're going to want to make sure that the students get their requests to their teachers, counselors, or if they're going to use somebody from the outside. We'll talk about how that process will work and what you need to do. Standardized test scores. Again, that's sort of the responsibility of students and parents, guardians, because there's a fee to those. And many times you have to get there on a Saturday, take those exams. So those are like the SAT or the ACT. Now, some schools, and we'll get into this a little bit later on. Right now, we're waiving or saying that there's test optional. But it's still an important part and something you need to be aware of depending on the college or university that you're applying to. Then the college essay. You're going to have to fill out a college essay. And what we do now at Norton is we have, at the end of the year, all of the English classes will work on their college essays. with their students, and sort of get those rolling. Some students finish those completely, others sort of take that and then sort of tweak it through the summer and maybe even to the fall. But again, a lot of students are going to try to get their college applications done over the summer. So we moved it back from used to be done the fall of senior year. We moved it a few years ago to make sure that it's done during the junior year at the very end of the year. There's always an application fee, unless you get a waiver of some kind, or some schools do offer either reductions or free applications. Each school is different, and it depends on, sometimes there's certain times of the year that they'll offer a waiver or application reduction. So, keep an eye on that as you're going through your process at each of your schools. Your high school transcript, your school counselor, upon request, your school council will help you with that. They will get that through our Naviance program. But if you're going to do early action, you're going to want to let that school counselor know that as soon as possible. And then the last thing is the FAFSA and or the CSS profile. This is for your financial aid components, and it's a really important piece that sometimes people forget to do. They get through the whole college application process, and they do that early, and then they forget to go do their FAFSA. We'll have another presentation for all the seniors next year in the fall about financial aid and so forth, but it really is something that make sure you remember to do. So saying that, we're going to move on, and Ms. Warren's going to take over now.
Great. So a lot of people have questions about how to actually submit their application and how to apply. So there's three main ways that people submit their application, which is, one component of the process that Mr. Searcy just talked about. So in most cases, people are using the Common App or the Common Application. So it's one application that then is sent out to all of the schools that you're applying to. Not every single school uses the Common App. In those cases, you might have to apply through their website. Like, for example, Bristol Community College, you're applying directly through their website electronically. And there are still some schools or institutions that require you to submit materials via mail. Less so now, just because everything is online, especially given everything that went down this year. Everything has gone electronic for the most part. But you'll have to check with each individual school. And on Naviance, you'll be able to see as well how your school accepts applications, because you'll see the icons that are listed on the screen. So that's how you'll know how to submit your applications. You can go to the next one. Another common question is when to apply. So regular decision is an option that students will use if they're needing the fall of their senior year to really fine-tune their application. Maybe they're waiting on standardized test scores, and those usually you would submit December, January, February. You'd get your response from the school usually around March or late February. Rolling admissions is exactly what it sounds like. So there isn't a hard deadline, but the thing to keep in mind with rolling admissions is once those spots fill, you run the risk of losing a seat at the school, just because there's only a certain amount of seats. And so it's in your best interest, even though there isn't a hard, fast deadline, to still try to get those in as soon as you can, just to be on the safe side. Early action is becoming more popular over the last few years. So students are typically submitting their applications in November or sometimes October for some of the West Coast schools. So that is for students who feel really confident with their grades from freshman, sophomore, and junior year. You're confident in your GPA. You're not waiting on standardized test scores, because I think a lot of times people forget that if they decide they want to take the SAT in October of senior year, if you're looking to have your full application go in, you have to be mindful of those early action deadlines. So early action is for really competitive applicants. If you're going for competitive programs, some of the nursing programs or computer science or finance, those are getting really popular. So it would be, depending on your situation, in most cases, it'd be in your best interest to apply or look at early action for some of those competitive programs. And usually you get your response back sooner, so you have more options or you know what to play with. Early decision is a binding decision. So once you decide you're going to apply early decision, you can only apply early decision to one school. Schools would look down very negatively if they found out that you were applying to more than one school early decision. So just keep in mind, early decision is for a school that no matter what the financial aid package looks like, no matter what circumstances arise, you know you are going to commit to attending that school. So it's not a super popular option just because it is binding. So you have to be really thoughtful if you're going to choose that option.
And I think it's important for people to know the schools do kind of know. And there's been situations where people have applied early decision at 2 different institutions and then decided to pick the one that gave them the best offer. But then that school found out and they actually have that they applied somewhere else and have taken back their acceptance. So they ended up not getting either one. So you really do need to be, this is my number one choice. I don't care what else is happening.
Definitely. So a good thing to do now is to start, if you haven't already, creating a common application. So this is where you want to use your personal email address, because if you use your school email address, just if you need to use this after graduation or if there's filters on what emails can get sent through, you want to make sure you're getting all of the communication from the colleges. One piece of advice I believe Todd gave us in last year or the year before, some students decide to create a whole new email address for this process, just because you're going to be getting a lot of emails in the college application process. So I believe Todd gave us that tip in one of his previous talks, which we really liked and thinks it's a great idea. So it's creating a whole new professional, personal email just to use for the college process. And this will be a good thing if you start now, you create your Common App, keep track of your password and login, and then you can just slowly start plugging away at the information over the next few months and over the summer, just so you're not bombarded with a long to-do list come senior year.
And it's really important that you track your username and your password and those kinds of things, because we have absolutely no control over the Common App. We can't get you that information. You have to try to get that yourself. So please, put it on your phone, put it on a calendar, put it on a sticky note, give it to a parent, like as many places as you can, so that you always know where that is.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you're going to come in and have a meeting, one-to-one meeting with your counselor, if we spend 10 minutes trying to figure out how to log into your account to help you with it, it just takes up your time and then it gets frustrating. So come prepared, keep track of your usernames and passwords. It'll save you a headache down the road. And then here is a Common App cheat sheet of links. So we'll share the presentation at the end, but you can come back to this page and it'll walk you through on all these little clips of how to add colleges, how to use the dashboard. We're going to get into more of the details of how to use Naviance in early of your senior year, like right early on. So, but if you want to get a head start and kind of look things over, these links would be a good place for you to start. And then I believe Molly or Miss Kilday will be talking about letters of recommendation, and she'll walk you through that process.
All right, so it's also important to start adding colleges to your Naviance colleges I'm thinking about list. So that's right in your Naviance. You can research schools and then you can start adding them to your list as you're thinking about applying to them. And then in the fall, you'll move them to the schools, the list that says colleges I'm applying to. To do this, you just research the school and you can do a heart, click the heart next to it, or you can press the add colleges to your list and just type in the school that you're trying to look up. So requesting a letter of recommendation, you want to start by asking 2 teachers face-to-face. And if your teachers agree, you want to request them through Naviance so that they can upload it. And it's important that if you have someone that's outside of NHS, you want to make sure that you provide them with an envelope and a stamp so that they can send it to your school, because the guidance staff can't send someone else outside of the school their letter of recommendation. It's also important if you want a letter from your guidance counselor to fill out a brag sheet. And this is in your Google Docs, and you can just share it with your counselor and they can start writing your letter of recommendation and upload it to your Naviance.
I want to again stress it's okay to ask for a letter of recommendation from somebody outside of the school department. It doesn't always have to be, a teacher or somebody, a coach that works for us. But if you do so, please make sure that you ask them, make sure that you give them a self-addressed stamped envelope, and then follow up with your with the admissions department. Hey, I'm having this letter sent. Make sure they get that, because there's no way for us to track that for you.
Can I just add something too, Denise?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
One of the things about letters of recommendation, just be really aware of how many the school allows, because you don't want too many. And let's say the school only asks for 3, the max number is 3, but you're asking for 4, but you really want one teacher's letter to be sent, and that teacher is the number 4 teacher that submits it. That means their letter is not going to be sent to the school. It's going to be the first 3. So it's not a good idea to just, I'm going to get as many letters as I can. You really have to be aware of how many each school is asking for in the max. And you really don't want to overload them either. Too many letters is not a good thing. So.
And then to request a letter of recommendation, Naviance, there's a video tutorial on this presentation. So it gives you a step-by-step instruction on how to do that. And you can come back to this presentation because it will be shared to you at the end via email. So you can always come back and look at it and find out how to request your teachers or counselor.
So as we had just mentioned, there is a brag sheet for seniors to fill out. This is a required document that needs to be submitted directly to your guidance counselor for us to write your letter of recommendation. So within this document, you're going to share where you're applying, what you've done throughout high school, and any other personal information that we might not know offhand that you would want included in your letter of recommendation that we're writing. So the more you provide to us, the more you're influencing what your letter will look like for admissions to read. So taking the time to be thoughtful and share as much as you're comfortable with is awesome. We love, love, love that. So, and then once you're finished, you'll share it either just through Google Docs, or you can print out a copy and just hand it in. But just make sure you get it to us at least 2 weeks before your first deadline. So having a sheet of when your deadlines are and noting whatever the first one is, just know at least 2 weeks before, because in the fall, we get a lot of brag sheets and we want to have enough time to get yours in by your deadline. And then also on the presentation, there's a link to the brag sheet. So if you want to start that early, you're more than welcome to.
Can I just interrupt back to the letters of recommendation? We stress the idea of having a face-to-face conversation with the teachers or coaches or whoever you have that you want to have on to do your letter of recommendations. It's really important to do that. And then I would also follow up with an email. Thank you, Mr. Kiefer for agreeing to do my letter of recommendation. Here's the colleges I'm going to. If you've done a brag sheet or if you've done a resume, make sure that you give them that information. I mean, like, for example, Dr. Kiefer might know you as a English student, but may not know that you volunteer at your church. And the same with the counselors, or that you watch your younger siblings 3 days a week, or, those kinds of things. So, the more information you can provide to the teachers and you can provide to the guidance counselors, it's going to be important. It's going to make it more personalized. And what we hear over and over again is that's the kind of stuff that the schools are looking for. What have you done? Where are your passions? And so, make sure you give that, or if you had a teacher in it's freshman year and now it's, going into your senior year, remind them, hey, this is when I had you, this is what I did. I mean, they may remember you, but maybe not some of the details or some of the things that maybe you did for them in their class, all of that kind of information. The more information you can give them, the better off it's going to be for them and for you. So please take that time. A lot of people are asking too, when should I ask? I would say you could ask in June. I would say it was probably a reasonable time. Let the get through the seniors, let the teachers get through graduation and all of that, and then ask. They may not do it until the fall. Some of them like to do it during the summer. Some of them don't. If you haven't heard from them, it's okay to put a nicely worded email saying, hey, just checking in. Did you remember I asked you to do this? That's fine. But none of them are going to be upset about that. So just sort of wanted to put those things out there.
So as we had briefly touched on before, SAT and ACT scores. So that's a student's responsibility to send those to a college. If you choose to send them, you do that either through College Board, if it's for the SAT, or through just act.org in your student account, if it's for the ACT. It's notable that there are fees. So especially with the SAT, you can get 4 free score reports sent if you do it within 9 days of the test date. After that, it's $12 for each send, and then it's $13 for each ACT score you send. So being mindful about how many colleges you're applying to, because there are application fees, and then there are also fees to send those test scores. So do you want to send your scores? So because of COVID, they've kind of revamped everything with college applications. Some schools are saying we're not taking them. Some schools are saying it's optional for you. So if you end up taking it and you get a great score, obviously send it in. It's a way to boost your application. But if you're somebody that maybe has testing anxiety, or your testing date keeps getting canceled because of COVID and you don't have a score to provide, that's going to be okay. I would say 99% of schools are going to let you waive that requirement. But it is important to look at the college's website specifically, because they're going to update you on if it's required and if it's not. So just be considerate of that, because there are only a few testing dates in the fall. If you're going to need it for a certain deadline, you're going to want to be ahead of that.
Ms. Nesbitt, can I just jump in for 2 seconds? Just to piggyback off that, I know some people are worried how that will impact financial aid or merit or scholarships. I know I was on a call today for account admissions update with UMass, and they said today that the majority of the students that were selected for merit or Commonwealth honors did not submit their test scores. And of their 40,000 applications, 38% submitted their standardized test scores. So it was really low, and they kept reiterating, if it's a supplemental piece of your application that will help round things out, so it's in your best interest to include it, but it wasn't held against anyone, and they were still eligible for scholarships and aid. So just wanted to make that clear.
I know there's also, and I hope folks understand that all of this is changing. Each college and university is sort of, going through this as we are. So, it's almost impossible for us to keep up with every different college and university. That's why I want to make sure you have those discussions. Don't be afraid to call or email the admissions folks. Ask some of these questions. Some universities and colleges, you have to say whether you're going to be test optional or not. So if you've checked, you're going to take the SAT, and then it got canceled, or you decided not to. If you had to check that box, make sure you now uncheck it, or call them and say, hey, I couldn't get in, it got postponed, or whatever. So just stay on top of that at your end, because each university is going to be slightly different. Sorry, Ms. Prue, you had.
So 2 quick things, sorry. Just if you do send your scores to a school and the school is test optional and you don't do that well, you can always call the school and say that you don't want them to consider the scores in your application anymore. So that's an option. Like I've actually had students submit their scores, and because of that, it kind of put them at a lower standing. And the school actually called me and said, hey, have the student email us and say, I don't want to do the score. I don't want the scores in my application anymore. So they're not going to look at that negatively either. The other thing to keep in mind is if a school has decided to go test optional and you're applying to a specific program in that school, maybe like the nursing program,
Oh, excellent
the
point.
nursing program may require your scores, may require the SAT, even though just to get into the school, it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily need to submit them, but for that specific program you do. So you really need to check with the school requirements, and then also if you're going into a specific program.
So my last slide is a PSA about the selective service registration. So this is required for all male students within 30 days of their 18th birthday. So just be mindful of that when your 18th birthday rolls around. You'll have to register for the selective service. And if you want more information about that, you can email your guidance counselor and we can send you a link to the website.
And it could, if you don't, it can impact your financial aid, especially federal, any kind of federal funding. So just be aware of that.
So getting connected. Obviously a lot of this has changed with COVID, but schools really are trying to figure out exactly who has that high interest in attending. Maybe isn't just applying just to apply. So to help them out with that and to show your interest in that this is one of your #1 schools, you want to do as many things as you can. So open houses, I know some schools have them now, some don't, but there's tons of virtual tours out there. Go onto the school website. And again, each school, you're going to have to go onto the website specifically and check, but they have webinars, they have virtual tours, they have videos, all different things that you can virtually do to check out the school and check out, talk to students or different staff at the school. So again, if you can go and visit and tour, absolutely do. Even if it's not a structured tour, it's great to just kind of walk the campus and see that campus life and see if it fits within what you're looking for and if you feel comfortable there. Any sort of interview that you can get is highly beneficial because they get thousands and thousands of applications. And when you sit down and you talk to somebody, you're putting a face to that paper and you're giving them a different perspective and a different story. And any sort of student shadow, again, is highly beneficial. Social media, any of the Facebooks, the Twitter, any of that stuff, you definitely want to get on if this is a high interest school for you. If they send you an email, don't just open it up, click on it, stay there for a little bit. Some schools actually track this, if you've opened the email, how long you've been on their school site, what different screens you've gone to, what different things that you've done. So again, just trying to determine if you are actually likely going to end up going to their school. So ton of information we've kind of put out there for you. I know with us, even talking, sometimes we're like, oh yeah, we forgot about this and this. So I guess we're just gonna go over a few steps. All right, so fall and winter, these are all the things that you've kind of should have already started, researching college and careers, going on campus tours if you can, walking around the campus, maybe doing some virtual stuff, thinking about the SAT and ACT, studying for it, getting ready to register for it. But from now into the summer, you absolutely want to go into Naviance and start adding those schools to colleges I'm thinking about. And if you're definite that, this is a school you're going to apply to, move it to the colleges I'm applying to portion of Naviance. Request your letters of recommendation. Most are 2 teachers max. In most cases, sometimes it's 3, but really be cognizant of that max number, because again, if you really, really want Miss Burkett to submit that letter, and you've already asked 2 other people and the max is 2, Miss Burkett's letter is not getting sent. And also keep in mind with guidance counselors, you do not have to request our letters through Naviance. Simply completing the brag sheet and sending it to us, that's letting us know that, you know, you would like a letter from us. Some schools require it, some don't. Some would prefer just the teachers. So if your schools do not require a guidance counselor's letter, that's absolutely fine. And again, we don't want to take up a letter if you don't need it, but we're more than happy to write any letters.
If you're not sure of some of this, or you're looking around and you can't quite figure it out on the website, although again, most of them are pretty clear and well organized, just reach out to the guidance counselor. We'd rather have you be proactive than trying to scramble right before a deadline or you missed a deadline. So please reach out and just ask the question, set up a meeting, whatever it is you need to do, and we'd be happy to help you.
And the college essays, like Mr. Cersei had said, you're going to start working on them at probably like now, I'm assuming, and into May. Your resume, if you have that, that's always beneficial to send to us and to the teachers that you're asking to do your letter of rec. And then that brag sheet. Again, that brag sheet is huge. You're basically giving us all the information to kind of pump yourself up and make it a great letter of rec. And anything that we wouldn't necessarily know, you definitely want to add. Too much information. There's not too much information. It's better to have tons and tons of info than not a lot. The ones that really give us small pieces of info in the brag sheet, those are actually really hard to write. It's much easier for us to pull all this information out from what we know and what you're giving us and that sort of thing, and fluff it up and make you look good. Definitely talk to family about your plans, the college budget. I mean, I know when I was going to school, I had these dreams about these schools that I wanted to go to, and then really the budget played into it, and that ultimately determined where I was going to go. So it is a factor, and it is better to be proactive and talk about it. And then, like we said, tour, visit, virtually visit, do virtual appointments. Some of the reps, the admissions reps that you're talking to in the college fairs and whatever, those might be the people that are actually determining whether or not you're getting into the school. Sometimes they will bring applications to committee. Sometimes it is just that college rep saying yes or no, you're in. So making those connections and talking to those people are very, very important.
And they do remember. It's amazing, but they do remember. It's really interesting. So.
And then these are just some additional resources that you can go on for financial aid and virtual college fairs and the FAFSA.
And that is it. So as we said, we will be sending this out to the students via their school email. We'll also be posting this whole presentation, including Todd's part that's coming up. That will show up on the guidance department website. And then for parents, we also have our college planning guide, which is a very detailed step-by-step guide through the entire process. So it has hyperlinks and so forth. If you just want to say, wait, what's FAFSA again? You can click on that. If you want to look at letters of recommendation, you can click on that. Everything is there to take you step by step. And as I said, please reach out. Let us know. We've already had seminars with the juniors, so they know about Naviance. They know the steps that they need to take. We've talked about the Common App. We'll do all of this again in September, and get them ready for the fall. So, all that we will go over with them again. But this is just a good place to start. I think I can't encourage the students to start in the summer, get it going, do a little bit of a time once or twice a week, and it'll make your senior year so much more enjoyable, where you're not trying to cram everything in at once. So, I'm going to stop sharing at this point. I think what we'll do is we'll save a set of questions and answers for the end after Todd has had a chance to do his presentation. So, because he might answer some of those questions that you would have, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Todd. I'll let you share your screen. And again, thank you to the guidance counselors for coming out tonight and walking us through all of this.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Searcy. And thank you, Norton High School, for welcoming me back. It's always a pleasure presenting to you guys. If you don't mind, I'm actually going to turn off my camera because I get totally distracted. But I'm still here. I promise you can still hear me. So this is similar to a presentation that I gave last year, and I created it specifically with prospective students and parents in mind, because the coronavirus rather, was still very much evolving and continues to. And I took this to heart. I'm the father of 3 teenagers myself. My oldest is actually a senior in high school. So we were in the midst of our college search process as the world went sideways. And it really, I found myself repeating these things and this information to my son, and I felt, there are other families who could benefit from similar information. And I'm truly flattered you guys gave me some hollerbacks here to some of the stuff that I shared in the presentations last year. And even though we are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel here, the virus and its implications promise to have a ripple effect that will continue to follow this class, this junior class, through your entire college search and selection process. So there's still a lot of information here that's absolutely relevant. And this has not been obviously the year that you guys anticipated as juniors. Schools closed on you guys. We've come back as hybrid. Some of you are still remote. Even if you're able to see friends, in all likelihood, you're wearing masks. This is, it's not the kind of interaction that certainly extroverted students feed off of when they go off to school. And I've seen all of that echoed, those themes echoed among my own teenagers here. But not all the news is bad with regard to how the virus may impact your college search process. So I want to share on this slide with you a couple of highlights, and then we'll spend the rest of our time diving a little deeper into each of these concepts. So one piece of good news is that we as colleges and universities are doing more innovative online outreach to connect with you, prospective students, and your families. We're more flexible with our application process, and that may very well continue into this coming year. And we're making more offers of admission. I know that might seem a little strange, so we'll definitely unpack that concept in some detail later. And you could probably anticipate more generous aid offers this year, which is always good news as a parent who just weighed financial aid options a couple of weeks ago. So we'll get into that. So first, innovative outreach. Some of the things that you can anticipate seeing are things like online info sessions. We'll talk about that. Virtual and self-guided tours in addition to in-person tours as we start to creep back to the new normal. And I'll emphasize the importance of filling out inquiry forms, especially as we still have some elements of a virtual world here. So online info sessions are pretty pervasive, especially since the start of the pandemic. At least at Bridgewater, we offer afternoons with BSU that happen Monday through Wednesdays. And we even offer an evening program on Thursdays. And I would imagine that just about every college and university that you're considering is going to have some type of online live program, including a student panel up for questions and answers. It's just a question of how often and when exactly. So you'll want to be checking the admissions websites of the schools that you're considering so that you can be in touch with the latest and greatest information. So, as was mentioned earlier, tours are such an important part of your college search process. I can't underscore that enough for you. I often make a comparison with buying a car. You wouldn't pay tens of thousands of dollars for a car unless you took it for a test drive. Well, you're going to spend way more than that on your college education. So at least don't make a deposit unless you've stepped foot on the place. And hopefully you'll be able to do that in this coming year. But in the meantime, virtual tours can be an alternative, especially for those schools that are a little further away or might be in coronavirus hotspots. So again, just about every place is going to offer a self-guided tour, or at the least you can wander around campus using their virtual tour as kind of a handheld guide of sorts. But definitely try to get on campus and do a guided tour as soon as you can. And as promised, the importance of filling out inquiry forms. So these, as you see depicted on the screen, there are these little cards you'll have to fill out if you go to a college fair or if you get printed materials. You can also fill out online inquiry forms. And this is how you get into our system and how you start to receive all that wonderful mail that we'll fill your mailbox with over the coming 12 months. But this is also important, as was mentioned earlier, an important way that you can indicate interest in an institution. And yes, we all track that. We all track people who have filled out inquiry forms or visited our websites or opened our emails. Certainly if you visited campus or spoken in person with any of our professional staff, that's all tracked. And many schools will use that when they're weighing students, applicants who are sort of bubble candidates. It's called indication of interests. So, and again, my advice was previewed a bit. I'd highly encourage students and families to create a separate email account just for the college search process. My son and I created a Gmail account. And what's important here is that both the student and the family have access to that account. So you guys are literally on the same page as you go through this process, because there's a lot of stuff that comes through electronically, especially now, and you don't want to miss deadlines or forms. And it allows you to take a team approach to the college search process and certainly that final selection process. So create a specific email and make sure everybody has access to it. So some flexibility you can anticipate in the application process. So as mentioned earlier, again, test optional, and we'll talk about what that means exactly and how you should approach that with each individual institution. The pass-fail grades, I can't remember whether Norton's doing this, but certainly some schools did do this in giving students an option to take a pass-fail grade, especially last spring when we all had to pivot into virtual classrooms and such. Some schools were offering pass-fail options. And then finally, deadlines and how that relates to the application process. So test optional, right? So this is again, nothing new. A lot of institutions have been test optional, and Bridgewater has for about 4 years. This past year, everybody went test optional. Harvard, the UCal system, everybody went test optional. And it's just a simple fact that, these test dates were being canceled left and right on students. And my son got into one, the second one got canceled. So there was no way that schools could reasonably hold students accountable for not being able to get a standardized test. And I've sat on a couple of panels with other admission professionals a few times this spring, and the consensus seems to be that everyone's going to maintain those test optional policies at least through this coming admission cycle. So you guys are in luck that you'll be able to ride the test optional wave. And test optional, as I said, is increasingly common practice. We can anticipate those policies to remain in place for this coming cycle. But the issue here, and this is something that students are going to want to be aware of for sure, it's been mentioned already, and the implementation of these policies vary wildly among institutions, even among us state universities here in Massachusetts. So absolutely read the fine print on websites and printed materials. If you have any questions at all about how places are implementing their test optional policies, call the office, get clarification. My advice, generally speaking, is take the tests. At least that way you have the option of whether you want to submit them. Great piece of advice for you is that you can go on to Naviance. I know Norton has access to Naviance. Go and see what the average SAT scores are for students who are offered admission or enroll at that institution. If your scores meet or exceed those numbers, send them. If they don't, just keep it to yourself. So this just gives you another option and another way to bolster your candidacy at a particular institution. But if you don't register and you don't take the test, you don't have the option. So definitely register. And as I said, check the average test scores of admitted students. At least with regard to Bridgewater, it can only help you by sending us SAT scores, and that we get to use a sliding scale as part of the state standards. So it's a whole other presentation in any case. Very quickly, the pass-fail situation. So as I said, last spring, a lot of schools pivoted, didn't want to hold students accountable for having to go virtual, so they offered a pass-fail. Not a problem with regard to applying to public universities here in Massachusetts, in that in every case, so long as the student has a passing grade, we will count it towards the required courses for admission to a public university here in Massachusetts. We'll just exclude that course from recalculating your grade point average. In short, you won't be penalized for taking a passing grade as opposed to a letter or a numeric grade. So deadlines, deadlines. It was a moving target last year. I'll be honest. The pandemic hit in March. There's a May 1st national candidate reply date where students have to pay their deposits. Almost everyone pushed it back to June 1st last year. We saw that sort of theme continue into the fall, where nationwide, as institutions, we were hoping students would, get on board and, start adhering to deadlines and get the materials in on time. When in reality, it was hard for students to get motivated in a world where there's so much ambiguity to get motivated into the minutia of planning for their future. You literally didn't know what was happening from one day to the next, whether it was the pandemic or it was racial riots or it was the turn in the economy or whether your parents are going to be employed next week. It was berserk. I don't have to recount it in detail for you all. You lived it. And so we did see a lot of flexibility, even in the fall with deadlines into the spring. I would imagine, May 1st is this weekend. And so I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we saw schools again push their deposit deadlines out to June 1st, or if not even later. So, we'll just have to wait and see with a little anticipation here as to how the rest of this unfolds. But I would imagine that there may be some flexibility for you guys in the year to come. So I mentioned earlier that you could anticipate more offers of admission. I would imagine this probably piqued a lot of people's interest when I mentioned this. So let's spend some time here on this concept. I'm going to talk first about the demographic decline that we're experiencing here, not just in Massachusetts, but nationwide. Also, how the economic crisis is impacting students' college choice and how us institutions have to adjust. And then the phenomenon of students wanting to stay closer to home through the pandemic and its aftermath. So first and foremost, the economic decline. So it's no secret that there's just fewer college-bound age students graduating from high schools over the next 15 years. The map here on the screen illustrates that college-going populations on average nationwide are going to drop 15% over the next 15 years and continue to decline by another percentage point or two every year thereafter that. There's just fewer kids being born. And the problem's worse in our region of the country here, where this national trend is coupled with the fact that it's expensive to raise a family in the Northeast. We're having fewer kids, and some of our neighbors with kids are moving to less expensive regions. So if we zoom in a more detailed map of Massachusetts, you can see the projections and just how severe this trend is going to be all the way down to the county level. And southeastern corner of the state is going to see some of the steepest declines. So that's the demographic decline. Now let's talk about how that benefits you guys as applicants. So in Massachusetts, we have a high concentration of colleges and universities, and we're all competing essentially for the same pool of potential students. And if there's fewer students, right, then some schools will have to wade into pools that they haven't had to in the past. And consequently, many schools will have to make more offers of admission to yield the same class size as in prior years. You see, not every student who applies gets admitted, and not every admitted student enrolls everywhere they're accepted. Now, let's take a minute to pull back the curtain on the college admission process from the school's perspective. You, as an applicant, you're undoubtedly obsessing about the acceptance rate at schools on your list. And now an acceptance rate is the percentage of applicants that are accepted by a school during an admission cycle. The lower the number, the more selective the school. So for example, Harvard is among the most selective schools in the entire world with an acceptance rate of only 5%. On the other end of this equation, us professionals in admissions obsess over our yield rates. And a yield rate is the percentage of accepted students that actually enroll at our institutions. We do our best to anticipate how many offers of acceptance we're going to have to send in order to get our optimal number of incoming students. As I said a moment ago, not everyone who's offered admission enrolls because students apply to more than one school and hopefully receive multiple offers. Again, just to pick on Harvard, you may think that everyone who's admitted to Harvard enrolls at Harvard. And don't get me wrong, Harvard is a magical place and it enjoys among the highest yield rates on the planet. So it might come as a surprise that they have an 82% yield rate and not 100%. So if not even Harvard can count on having all of their admitted students enroll, You can only imagine how us mere mortals in the business must struggle to predict our yield rates. And by mere mortals, I mean those of us closer to the national average of 67% acceptance rates and 34% yield rates. The most common practice for those of us in admissions is to use historical trend data to generate all sorts of regression analysis and predictive modeling to anticipate the ideal yield rates. Well, as you know, we're in unprecedented times, which means that all of that is thrown out the window for this fall. And again, the benefit to you is that some schools may need to send more offers of admission to applicants to yield the same class sizes in the past, which means if you include a few stretch schools on your list of places where you're applying to this coming year, send out a few more applications, one of these additional offers of admission may be mailed to you. So this year, more than ever, my advice is don't be afraid to stretch. Now, let's talk about the economic crisis, and the roller coaster stock market and ever increasing unemployment rates don't seem to have an end in sight. Those of us who have saved or cleared our debt in anticipation of cash flowing our kids through college are scared. Now, if you were planning to take out loans and counting on future earnings to manage the debt, it's frightening to think how uncertain earnings are now with the unemployment rate still bouncing up and down. So the economy is absolutely impacting the college search process for students, considering schools all up and down the price point scale. Those that were planning on paying for expensive privates may now seriously be considering less expensive public university alternatives. And those of us at public universities, we're not immune to it either. We are very much aware that there's going to be a percentage of our populations that are going to instead opt to go to a community college in hopes of transferring over to a four-year school once things settle down. So my point here returns to the issue of anticipated yield rates. So colleges and universities are likely to be admitting more students in these uncertain times to yield the same class size as in previous years. And again, this may end up being a good thing for you guys. And then also we're seeing the coronavirus has had some impact on how far away from home students are willing to go. And we've all watched these maps on the news depicting daily spread of the global pandemic and hotspots and who's lessening restrictions and who's ratcheting them back up. But economics and emotions aside, some students are just going to choose schools closer to home over those that are near the epicenter of the coronavirus hotspots or just wanting to stay closer to home for emotional support. I was hearing from colleagues in the Boston area as early as last fall that applications were significantly down from China. And that's when our only worries were the trade war, right? And it's easy to imagine that international applications in general are going to be down again significantly in this coming year as the travel restrictions continue to hold, especially in countries that are experiencing an uptick in the coronavirus like India. So this is going to benefit local students who may be considering Boston area schools that are otherwise rely on full pay international students to generate a large percentage of their annual revenue. And again, this may end up benefiting you guys. So let's talk about the more generous offers of financial aid. And we're going to talk about things like the importance of filing your FAFSA form. We'll talk about the phenomenon of deeper discounting and the importance of you students and your families being savvy buyers when it comes to the point of selecting which school and where you want to enroll. So my advice is that everyone in the sound of my voice apply for, fill out their FAFSA form. You know, and if you're not familiar with this, the free application for federal student assistance. And in the past, I've talked to students and families who have said they're not going to do it because it's like either too intrusive or they figured they're not going to get aid anyway. Having filled it out for the first time myself, I can tell you it's not that intrusive. It's basically the information that you've already disclosed in your tax filings. It's just putting it in a different format electronically. You can upload it. It's real easy. And the reality is you're not going to get aid unless you apply for it. So everybody in the sound of my voice should absolutely be doing this year. If for no other reason, again, the unpredictable nature of our current economic situation. We just can't predict what our life is going to be like 12 months from now. So fill out the forms, have the option in any case. Absolutely do it. So let's talk about deeper discounting. So this idea of tuition discounting is an increasingly common phenomenon in higher ed, and it's been adopted by both public and private colleges and universities. So to define it for you, tuition discounting is when schools advertise an inflated list price or sticker price, perhaps as an indicator of their quality, and then they offer deals and reduce that amount for selected students to entice them to enroll. So I have seen this myself with my son using online net price calculators. And so my son's a solid, B+ student now in his senior year. And when we were filling this out in his junior year, with his, what I consider average performance for an aspiring college student. So you can imagine my surprise when we started seeing quote unquote merit discounts of, $10,000 to $15,000 at some schools. And that's without even formally applying for admission or for financial aid. So schools are going to be strapped for cash this coming year because of declining enrollment, but many are going to double down on merit money, hoping to make up for it with net tuition revenue from their overall enrollment. So if you encounter colleges that are advertising inflated sticker prices and then are willing to discount more than 50% off their sticker price, you ought to be cautious. There's a serious question as to whether some of these schools are going to be open and up for business long enough to grant you or your student a degree, rather. So think of it in these terms. If someone docked your annual family income by 50%, how long would you be able to sustain your household budget? Don't get me wrong. At the more selective schools with big endowments like Harvard or even Boston College, they can comfortably afford to cover 100% of students' unmet need. And it's business as usual. It's just not a sustainable revenue model for most of the smaller, less selective private colleges. And I'd like to bring your attention to Boston Magazine article that reported recently that over the past 5 years, in Eastern Massachusetts alone, we've seen 8 colleges shut down or merge with larger universities. We just saw on the news Becker College is going to close at the end of this academic year, Becker College in Worcester, Mass. And believe me, I've taken calls from those crying students and their parents from Oneida and Newbury and recently Becker, who've paid several years of a private school price tag only to have those schools close before these students can earn their degree. It's a gut-wrenching experience for everyone involved. And all indications are that this trend of college closures has been significantly accelerated by the economic effects of the coronavirus. There are still plenty of safe harbors out there in higher education. And be sure to check out the 2019 Forbes magazine article depicted on the slide here on the screen. In it, they offer an online report card illustrating the fiscal health of private colleges and universities in the US. Now, the Forbes list doesn't include public universities, but we will undoubtedly see consolidation in public higher education systems with underperforming campuses closing. You don't have to look much further than the state of Pennsylvania has put out a proposal recently as the past 2 weeks to do that. All that having been said, however, I assure you that Bridgewater State University has been around since 1840 and we ain't going nowhere. So BSU is here for you and we're a safe bet to be around for another 180 years, as are many, many other great institutions here in Massachusetts and New England. So you'll have a lot of safe options as savvy buyers. Just real quick for you in the slide here, some COVID impacted professions, both hiring and layoffs. I don't like to dust off a crystal ball or make proclamations about where I think people's potential professional futures may lie, but these are trends that we at least saw over the past 12 months. Whether they're sustainable and carry us into the future, gosh, I hope not, because I like to travel and eat at restaurants and fly in airlines. So I'm hoping that all those businesses start hiring people again. But at least in the short term, these are some things you might want to be aware of going forward. So good news, more innovative online outreach, more flexible application processes, and more offers of admission, and look forward to more generous aid offers. So for better or for worse, that is the end of my presentation. I am regrettably going to have to bounce off because I got double booked.
No
So
worries. No
I got a
worries.
presentation starting now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I truly appreciate it as always, and good luck with the next presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Good night, Norton. Thanks again.
So that is the end of our presentation, unless we have any questions from the folks out there. Again, if you have questions after you think about this, please reach out directly to your guidance counselors. They're happy to help you out. They'll be there now. They'll be there in the spring. They even answer during the summer, most of them, even though they're not technically working. I work year round, so please feel free to email me as well. You can find all our information on the Norton High School website. Just go to departments. We're listed under the John B. Atwood Guidance and Support Center. And you can get all of our contact information as well as this presentation and other presentations we've done, information about Naviance, information about course selection. As I said, our college programming guide, a college application guide is there. Please take a look at it. It's easy to use. It bounces you from one area to the other if you're just looking for certain things, or you can read it cover to cover, depending on what you want to do. I did get a question about students that are interested in playing sports. There are a few things that you do need to do if you want to play college sports. One is there's something called the NCAA portal. You're going to need to develop a register there, get a login, a username, and set that up. And what they'll do is then let me know that you are registered. But I also appreciate it if you send that directly to me. Hey, Mr. Searcy, I registered with the NCAA portal. That way I can get your transcript up there as soon as possible. I have to do one your junior or the beginning of your senior year, and then I'll be doing the final ones for seniors now. If you're looking at Division III, it's not as important, although some of the coaches like to see that. But if you're thinking Division I or Division II, you absolutely have to register. You also have to send your SATs and your ACT scores there. And you can do that just like when you send your scores to a college. There's usually a drop-down menu when you sign up to take your SAT, what colleges you want to send your scores to. You just go down and you'll see NCAA portal and you send it there. I also encourage you to talk to Mr. Sumner, the AD, talk to your coaches, make sure that they know that's what you're looking to do. They can give you some guidance. They have a lot more experience than myself or the guidance counselors do and how to sort of manage the sports world. And then reach out if you're going on tours or if you're doing an open house. A lot of times you can make appointments, check with your with the admissions folks, say that you're interested in playing a sport, or reach out directly to the coaches themselves. Some coaches will let you do the day with the team. Some coaches will let you do a sleepover, depending again, on sort of like the recruiting process is, and that can be the same for Division III. Division I and II, it's a little bit more competitive, but that's why I would have a conversation with Mr. Sumner. Other than that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. If you have questions, the student or a parent, again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you with the process. It is complicated, but if you take it in little chunks, I promise it will go a lot smoother for you. Otherwise, everybody have a good night. And again, thanks for coming out.